This particular show, I was very keen to do something different visually. You know, really, I think it's the biggest sort of visual thing that I've done live since I did The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway with Genesis a long time ago. I'd sort of consciously tried to avoid that for a while. And I had great plans for doing things with sort of video screens and moving things around in different ways that could be configured in various setups. And then halfway through developing these ideas, I started talking to some of the people working on Zoo TV, and I saw that U2 show, which I liked very much. And I thought, well, that's based around video. I'll do something different. And I've had regular meetings with Robert Lepage, who's a wonderful, visionary Canadian director, playwright, actor. And what I loved about what he does is that there's a sort of stunning use of very simple visual imagery. And I thought this could work really well with a rock show. Sometimes, when you look around, everything seems still and calm on the surface. And then you detect a little disturbance. And you know for sure that underneath the surface lies some other secret world.
Per ognuno di noi che ha un mondo segreto, secret world.
What eventually emerged was to work on something with relationships. In a sense, the record had been about relationships, and rather than just personal relationships, we were trying to look at polarities. So you had town, country, synthetic, organic, and principally male and female. And these were going to be represented by square and round stages. When we eventually got the retrieve for the round stage, yes, Robert suggested these two symbols, phone box for the masculine and tree for the feminine stage. I was reminded of Spinal Tap for a moment when Stonehenge arrived, because I had in mind this grand tree that was going to dominate this circular stage, and what was actually practical for something that we could get underneath the stage and have emerge was the pint-sized version. But nonetheless, I think it still worked in terms of what it symbolized and the way it got lit. It did really create an atmosphere quite simply and effectively.
In the blood of Eden lie the woman and the man, with the man in the woman.
Transition and transformation was a key elements for the way that the Secret World was designed. And one of my favorite moments is when we moved from a masculine stage to the feminine. So it's around across the river, and there was this rain stick and mist, and you get this sense of transition. And in a sense, it's also discovery of the self and discovering the feminine nature, and that's where Digging in the Dirt takes place. So it's designed in a way to have a narrative from start to finish. Digging in the Dirt, in a sense, is a song looking inside your own head. So the way that was presented was two things. One was this sort of self which came out of the ground that one dug down to reach, and that was in the center of the round stage. And the other was with the head cam. I've been telling Robert that I had an idea which I didn't fulfill before, when I've been sort of falling into the audience of wearing a head cam and filming from my perspective, because I don't think I've seen that as a performer. And he liked that idea, and he also suggested just flipping it back so that it became a way of looking at myself.
This time you come too far. This time you come too far. This time you come too far. I told you. This time.
Digging in the Dirt is about anger too, and rage, and it shouldn't be beautiful or pretty. So, in a sense, the camera too, when it's doing all the close-ups, is certainly neither beautiful or pretty. In terms of the hardware, a lot of it was sort of purpose-built staging as well, and we had a fantastic crew who were extremely hard-working and patient to get going at the outset, and it was also a serious job loading it in and unloading it. And by the end of the tour, they got that down to a fine art very fast, but I think the crew were very depressed when they saw the amount of dreams that we'd turned into solid lumps of material. During the show itself, the crew are very busy. There's a lot of things that you don't see from the outside that are actually going on underneath in terms of preparing bits of props or music changes, and so the odd moments that I was under the stage, it was quite interesting and quite fun to watch the other show. A lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat and tears into making Secret World, and I think it ended up with something that was different from other shows. So it was important to us to try and get some record of it, and also to film it in such a way that it would work for television as well. One of my favorite scenes in the film is in fact from the camera, which was strapped onto this big screen as it was rotating, which you see in Secret World. I have a really wonderful band, an amazing group of musicians, and I think this is the strongest that we've ever sounded this particular tour. It's a real pleasure for me to work with Manu. Ever since he started working with me, probably 7 years ago now, I think he's given my music a lot of great grooves, but a lightness of touch, which really has helped lift it. Tony on bass is a master musician. Till I thought of what I'd say, which connection I should cut. Very, very solid on stage, and he's a great presence to work off too. And he has a good sense of humor. David Rhodes on guitar is a long-time friend, and he's reliable in a way that I'm not once we're into the craziness of the live show. You know, I will get distracted and sort of forget something or jump from one part of a song to another. He'll help anchor things down. Jean-Claude Nemro was actually recommended to me by Yusun Dor because I was trying to find somebody who could have a feel for texture, but also had great grooves. And what he does in the groove department, I think, is unique. And Shankar is extraordinary violinist. He, perhaps more than any other instrumentalist I've worked with, can make his instruments sing. It cries. I mean, he can get sounds out of that instrument that I've never heard from anybody else. Paul I was introduced to by Kevin Killen, who has worked with me in the past, engineering, producing producing some stuff, and David Rhodes. And she's an American singer, and it was her record that attracted me. I mean, she's got quite a sort of quirky, eccentric edge to the way she puts stuff together.
It's gonna be alright. When love's get rough, can't go back on us. Don't give up. Please don't give up.
Sometimes with good singers, there's great sound and great technique, but you don't feel the person. And Paula's, I think, very strong in that way. So it's been a great pleasure to work with her. A few years ago, I was researching the music for Passion and The Last Temptation of Christ soundtrack, and somebody played me this very strange music, which was duduk, which is an Armenian instrument. And I fell in love with it. It was one of the most haunting sounds I'd ever heard, and managed to get a piece which we used on the record. And then we had to try and find a duduk player, which seemed to be impossible in this country, although I'm sure they exist. But we eventually traced one in France. And Livon Minassian is actually a jeweler in Marseille, but he's also a great duduk player. So he closes up shop to come out on the road with us, and although he's not playing a lot of the time, he creates, I mean, we usually have him opening the show, and he creates a real mood of mystery. As a musician, I think I've really changed what I do and the way I approach my work through having worked with a lot of great musicians from other countries. And being able to bring a bit of that out live has always been a great pleasure, with working with Yusuf, for instance, or Aya Bagada. And on this particular leg of the tour, we're working with a great singer and band, Papa Wemba. In Your Eyes, which is normally the end of the show, or end but one, that's the time when Papa Wemba and his band come back on stage once again and join us, and it's always a joyful moment. It's an ongoing process developing The Secret World, and it's changed really each time we've gone out. Rock people and theatre people don't always talk the same language, but we wanted to try and break some new ground and find a new territory.